Welcome to another Sunday morning conversation. Um, Today's not an ordinary episode. Today is the 100th episode. And I saved Beth Choi, a fellow TBI survivor and a sexual assault survivor, for this episode. Because honestly, for me, it's so nice just to talk to someone who understands me and everything that I go through because they went through it. So I want you to hear what our lives are like. Um, and that's why I saved her for 100. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope you enjoy. Hola, amiga. What's up?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
A day in the life. Just keep it busy. I didn't sleep last night, so I worked out in the middle of the night.
Oh, wow.
That's
Okay.
part of my brain injury is erratic sleep. It's not really, I was gonna say erratic sleep pattern, but it's not really a pattern. So it is what it is. I'm used to it.
How long ago was your brain injury?
About 4.5 years.
Okay.
Yours was about what, 12, 13?
14 now, 2008.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Yeah.
What are some of your lasting effects from it?
So sometimes I say the wrong word.
Okay.
Short-term memory isn't, I just seem like I'm ditzy, so I just forget certain things. It's to write it down.
Do you use Post-its? I use a shit ton of Post-its.
What?
I
Yeah.
use a shit ton of Post-its.
Yeah, I need that.
My ex hated it, Post-its.
You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I have anxiety, a lot of anxiety from everything. Sometimes I can't control my emotions all the time, but and my balance is off. I can't ever ride a bike and stuff like that, but I can run. So there's that. So,
Does the running help with the anxiety?
oh yeah, I need to run. It was a big part of my recovery. Once I started running, I just wanted to spend all the time on the treadmill because that was when I was by myself and I could focus on what happened. And so, yeah, so I've been running for 14 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those symptoms are a lot of what I have. It's actually very hard for me to ride a tri bike. If it's a windy day and there's crosswinds, there's a good chance it might knock me over. And I just did for Virginia Blue Ridge 70.3, where we had to do a 5-mile climb. And going at that slow a speed, I had to get off and walk a lot of it just because I could stay stable. The faster I'm going, the better chance I have of not losing my balance. But I can easily fail a field sobriety test. That's why my doctor gave me a note for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So tell me about your TBI. I mean, I know the little that you told me. I mean, I don't know how much you want to share because it's not exactly a great chapter of your life.
I've spoken a lot since this happened, and I hope to I should hope to show young girls how to stay safe, protect themselves, be aware of potential danger. So anyway, so what happened was back in 2008, I was living in Philadelphia on South Street, and I was young, single. It was like the city. It was a fun place to live at the time. And when I would come home from work every day, I would walk my dog, and I became friendly-ish with the restaurant / bar owner of the restaurant that was below my apartment, and just small talk and talk with the dog, nothing major. And then he asked if he could borrow my apartment one night to play poker with some friends. So I'm naive, was naive. I grew up in a small town, New Jersey, where we knew everybody, and he seemed like a nice guy. So I said, yeah, you can play poker with your friends. And itch. And so then that Saturday night, he came over to my apartment with people that I didn't know any of them, except for him. And I didn't know him that well. And his name was Richie. I didn't know his last name. And I went out with my girlfriend named Kelsey, and we went just to a few bars that night, nothing crazy. And then when we came back, there were still people in my apartment playing poker. So rather than, I realize now that I should have said, okay, guys, it's time to leave and going to bed. But I was shy, didn't say that. So Kelsey decided to spend the night at my apartment. So we both went upstairs and went to bed, locked the door and everything. And then the next morning I went downstairs to make coffee, and there was some random man that was in my living room. And he was there apparently the night before. So I asked him to please leave. And his response was, I don't have any place to go. So rather than another red flag, you know, I should have probably been like, okay, I'm gonna go out and get coffee and try to get out. I went upstairs and I told my friend Kelsey, I'm like, there's this guy that's not leaving. So weird. And we didn't think it was a danger at the time. And within like 2 minutes, if that, he came upstairs into my bedroom with the big butcher knife from my kitchen, and he started threatening us. And then he sexually assaulted me. And then he got up and looked at us with a knife and said, "No funny business." And he walked out of the room, and we were hoping he left. We didn't know where he was going, and probably the bathroom or something. But I guess people say you never know how you're going to react in a traumatic situation. My girlfriend froze the whole time. And once he walked out after like a minute, I was like, I'm not dealing with him. I'm going to try to like get out of this somehow. So I jumped up and I locked my bedroom door. And then I quickly threw my warm-up suit and I went running over to my window and I lifted it up of my apartment. And I was 3 stories up, very, very high up. But I was not dealing with him anymore. So if he was going to try to come back after us, I knew I was going to take off and jump out of my window. And sure enough, within a few minutes, Kelsey was next to me, but I was the one that was going to jump first. He was banging on the door. He broke the door down and started running after us again with a knife. And that's when I was like, I took off. And I don't remember anything after that. But from what I hear is that, you know, a good thing is that I happen to be living in a city street, so there are people around. So because I jumped, Kelsey was safe because he ran out of my apartment and just ran. So so then people called immediately for help that saw me. Ambulance came, and I was within 5 minutes of Thomas Jefferson Hospital, which is one of the best hospitals, especially for brain injuries. So so I'm rushed to the hospital, and my parents got that phone call that no one wants to get. They were living in New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey. That's what they were. And Kelsey called and told them what happened. And they literally jumped in the car and drove 2 hours to Philadelphia to the hospital. And when they got there, no one knew where I was or who I was, because I jumped without any ID. So it took 2 hours for my parents to finally find me. But when no one could find me, their thoughts were like, oh my God, is she like, what happened? You know? So, so anyway, I suffered a very severe traumatic brain injury. I was in a coma for 5 straight weeks. I broke 22 bones.
Wow, that's a lot. How far
Yeah.
was the fall?
3 stories up. I don't know exactly the amount of feet it was. I could send you a picture of it, but you can see the window I dove out of. And
Was it a row house?
was it a what?
Row house?
What's a row house?
Philadelphia has a ton of them. It's like these long, skinny houses that are wedged right close to each other.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a row house. It was a big brick building.
Yeah.
That had like old like restaurants on the bottom and shops and everything all throughout where I lived. And then on top there were apartments. So yeah. So it didn't look good for the first few days. My parents were told that they weren't sure if I was going to survive. And then after like a week, it was pretty much like she's probably going to survive, but because of this traumatic brain injury, which was the biggest concern of everything, she's most likely not going to be the same, daughter. She might need a lot of help the rest of her life. My brain was swelling so much. They didn't end up relieving the pressure, but they were close to relieving the pressure and cutting how they had to cut the skull to relieve the brain pressure. They didn't end up doing that, but they were back and forth with that. And after 5 weeks, I finally started waking up, and I don't remember much about this time. I was very angry, and that's typical with a brain injury. You can't control your emotions at all. I didn't know why I was there. I kept trying to get out of the hospital bed and leave. I was bald on 3/4 of my head with tubes coming out everywhere,
That's the style now, right?
Yeah, it is actually. So I had a tracheotomy. I still have the scar. I had a feeding tube. It was crazy. And then after a few days being in the hospital, I was transported to an inpatient rehab facility. And I was on a floor with all other people that had brain injuries. And I was in a wheelchair almost the entire time. I mean, when I first took my first steps, my dad held me on one side and a nurse held me on the other side. And my dad, I just remember when I first took a few steps, like everyone started crying. Like, oh my God, like she's probably gonna be able to walk again. And I mean, my rehab was like, roll the ball straight and like just things that are like very basic. But when you have a TBI, they asked me questions like, who's the president? Where do you live? Like, I didn't know any of those answers at the time.
You know what? I got asked those at the scene. I got hit by a car, and I got asked those at the scene, and they asked me, who's the president? I said, some asshole I don't like. And the black guy, the black EMT's like, we'll take that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, I didn't remember much of anything.
How old were you?
I was 30.
Okay, I thought you would be older than me. So you're what, 44 now?
Yeah.
Okay.
How old are you?
I'm 30. Well, I'll be 37 tomorrow. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're a baby, 37.
Yeah, I mean, mine happened when I was 32, and I mean, it sounds like your parents were, I guess, only 2 hours away, but they were pretty present during your rehab and everything.
Oh, they were there. They're very amazing. Yes, they were there.
I didn't have that luxury of having my family nearby. Mine lived 4 states away, and yeah, and my ex-fiance kind of checked out. She didn't want anything to do with someone like that. She's like, this is not what I want for my life. But she didn't break up with me either. So it was kind of like, this is
Yeah.
just, so.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, did they catch the guy?
They did. So I was all over the news, but they didn't use my name because of the type of, I was sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
A lot of people knew it was me that heard what happened. And I remember when I first Googled everything, I was living in inpatient rehab and somehow I got on the computer and no, I'm sorry. I was when I was home. It wasn't at the inpatient rehab. I was on the computer. It was when I finally went back home. And I just remember seeing like news reporters like in front of my apartment and like caution tape and like my blood and stuff. I was like, oh my God. So that was very surreal. So he was I think it was 5 days that they kept putting his picture up and they were looking for him because Kelsey, remember, she didn't jump. So they interviewed her and she mentioned that it was the owner of the restaurant bar down that had this party. So then they brought him in immediately and he said, whoever that guy that was left there. So that's how, and then Kelsey identified him as well. So then, but he was on the run. FBI got involved. And then 5 days later, he finally finally turned himself in. And then because of the situation that I was in, they interviewed me, but I didn't have to go to court or anything like that. And it's just to see what I remember. I didn't remember a whole lot at the time, but Kelsey went to court and she testified and everything. And then he's still in jail to this day. So he's been in jail.
Did he sexually assault Kelsey too, or did she get, it was just.
No, we think that was his next, I mean, he wasn't leaving, right? Like we were hoping he was just going to leave after he did that to me, but he came back and tried to open the door and I locked. So then we don't know, but we think he probably would have went after her next, but he never did. She witnessed everything, like everything that was terrible to witness, but
It's horrible.
Yeah. So, but that's why now, I'm like, he's in jail and I speak about, I spoke at our local high school recently. I spoke at, University of Florida. And it helps me, I think, feel stronger when I'm able to tell my story. And, I'm so strong. And as much as it's horrible, it happened, like horrible. I feel like so much like, wow, like I'm a badass. Like I recovered from that and I'm married, I have kids, I'm running. My first marathon that I did was the Philadelphia Marathon. And I ran,
I saw your post about the marathon the other day.
Oh yeah. I didn't say I was great at marathons, but I've done them. So the first I ever did was that one. And that was when it went right directly past where I was on the ground fighting for my life, the exact spot. And I ran like, that's the strongest I've ever felt. Like I'm running a marathon now. Like who's the strong one now? So that was amazing. I did that in 2013.
Funny thing is, I got hit October 5th, 2017. And it was,
car?
huh?
Were you in a car or motorcycle? Were you walking?
I was on my bike and I got hit by a guy going about 60 miles an hour in a Tahoe.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was a whole new level of pain that when the doctor asks you to rate your pain on a 0 to 10, that's what a 10 feels like.
Were you awake or were you knocked out?
It knocked me out. And it was 12 days after Chattanooga, the Ironman Chattanooga. So, I mean, I was kind of riding high and I was in the middle of planning a proposal and shopping for a ring too.
Oh.
So, it just kind of, I always say it shook the snow globe, and it stayed in the air for a while and never settled in the same place. But I mean, I was signed up for the Birmingham Mercedes Marathon. I did that before I got hit, and it was in February 2018, so it was roughly 4 months after I got hit. I hired a coach. I said, just get me to this, and I want to run it. So I ran it, and it was ugly. I stopped at mile 25, beer tent, drank. Yeah.
Yeah. Good for you for doing it.
Well, that was the last marathon I ever ran, so I don't know if I'll do another one, but we'll see.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, what are you able to work now? I ended my career.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I went back to work about a year later, and I always played tennis. That was my main thing that I did growing up. I was really competitive, and then I taught ever since college onward, either full-time or part-time. So then I went back to teaching tennis for years. So yeah, that was my main thing that I did. Yeah.
I tried to go back to work on 4 occasions, but I got fired 4 times, and it was all the same story to where, I had like 10 years experience on the job, and I was pretty much up and coming, but because I was so slow at the job and being an architect is a deadline driven profession, I just couldn't meet deadlines. They had sophomores from Georgia Tech who, were there for the summer, who were working faster than I could. So,
Oh, I'm sorry, it's tough. Yeah.
that's kind of why, like, part of the YouTube channel is it gives me job experience about, essentially it's like running a business. When I started it, I came up with a business plan, and I treated it like that one, because when I wanted to go back to work someday, I I don't like being on disability, and I'll find something that I can do. But I knew, being an architect, everybody just sees me as a one-trick pony, and I needed to diversify and give myself some other experience.
Okay.
That's the only way I could break out of that system, because of the short-term memory issues, I don't think I could go back to school and study and retain enough to pass exams.
Yeah, I don't think I couldn't do that either. And I don't, since we moved to Florida actually 8 years ago. So once we moved to Florida, I don't work anymore. Um, just stay at home mom, run a lot.
That's not bad. I mean, my mom is on disability too. She got hurt on the job as a nurse. And I'm sure, like, the last thing she wanted is for her son to walk in her footsteps. But
Yeah,
when she got hurt, she became a stay-at-home mom. She's like, you could be a stay-at-home dad if I'm single now. So it's not like that's part of the equation. But you know, it's actually a very difficult conversation to broach, being on disability and telling that to someone you're just starting to date.
yeah,
It has a really negative stigma, and it's like, I have a lot of money from the accident. The guy worked for a Fortune 500 company. It's like, I'm financially independent, and
okay.
but I mean, that's you still can't overcome that stigma of, you know,
Um,
they find out you have a brain injury too. I've found that most people who aren't in the medical profession, or they don't have a relative or a friend or someone close by that had a TBI, it's an invisible injury. They can't make the connection, and that means they can't feel empathy either. And I forgive those people, because it's not their fault. I mean, it is what it is. But
People on Instagram say to me, "What's TBI? Why is your name TBI Runner Beth?" I'm like, so yeah, people don't know what a TBI is. I mean, traumatic brain injury, they don't know much about it. So
no, and like I said, it's an invisible injury because they can't see it. That guy walking down the street with a cane and the limp, they they can feel for that guy. They understand it. They see what he's going through. For us, they can't. I mean,
I
you
know,
and I pretty much appear normal for the most part. You know,
yeah,
we look and talk and act like it for the most part, unless I have like a kind of fit of rage for some stupid thing. You know,
mhm.
those anger outbursts, they got better with time, but man, they were bad at first.
Oh yeah, same, same. Again, it's been 14 years for me now, but was I was very emotional. I got a lot of therapy for the first few years.
Yeah, I've been in therapy for 3 years, and I'm just starting to go once every 2 months now. It's like, oh, I've kind of worked, I've worked through all my different phases. I've just kind of come into my own with forgiveness and everything.
Mhm.
And I think the only thing I have left to really work through is kind of making myself. It's one thing to be vulnerable on YouTube to the entire world. It's another thing to be vulnerable in an intimate setting with someone else, especially with what happened to me with my ex. And, you know,
Yeah,
she said a lot of really fucked up things that I just didn't know how to process at the time. And after therapy, I was able to, and it's like, wow, that was horrible. Why would you say that to someone?
yeah.
So kind
Good,
of get that trust back again. It's gonna be hard.
but it's best that you didn't end up with her because it doesn't sound like she's a really good person. So
No, no, she's not. It's funny because I got some relationship books, like the love languages one and all that stuff, because with a brain injury, we weren't speaking the same language anymore. I used to be able to read her like a book, and she kept her cards close to the vest, but I had ability to see through that, and I lost that. And I used to write every day in a book that actually sounds like a memoir, and I asked her to read it, because if I can't read you, you can at least get inside my head and see what's going on by reading this. She didn't want any part of that. The relationship books I read, the ones that were on her shelf, were all self-help books. Nothing
yeah,
about somebody, caring for someone, being with someone like this. So, and we were never really equally invested in the relationship. And like after I proposed, I changed her to be my beneficiary for everything. That wasn't the case for her. And to give you a perspective on how lopsided it was and we were invested, she didn't make me beneficiary for anything.
Mhm.
And she wouldn't even
Sorry,
change.
my husband's calling, but I'll hold on. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. This. Hold on. Okay. Oh, hello.
Yeah,
I thought I lost. Sorry.
but yeah, she wouldn't even change her road ID to put me on for emergency contact. So that's how fucked up that was.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Mm.
but you know, it is what it is. It was very. I did. I regressed during that time with my brain injury just because I had no support. And if you have to carry that weight on your own, most days I could. I just.
Yeah.
So.
No, I know. Very hard. I know. Yeah.
So you met your husband what 8 years ago?
No, we moved to Florida 8 years ago.
No.
I met him about a year after my brain injury.
So how did
So
that go when you first started dating? I mean, how did you talk about it, address it? Well,
so so our first date, he came. So I joke, I'm like, you're the only person in the world that would have dated. So really quick, I felt I was living with my parents, going to rehab like every day. And then when I started going to one of my friends from high school reached out to my family and said, can Beth please, I wanted her to come here. So at first I was like, I don't want to see anyone I know. I didn't want to see anyone for a while. But once I started going there, I saw some of my friends again from high school. We reconnected, and I was kind of feeling like we'd go to lunches. But other than that, I was always with my parents. So I'm like, okay. And they were so obviously they had a lot of like PTSD. They didn't want me to ever like leave their side. So I'm like, I need to just, I'm ready to start dating. Like I can't live like this forever. So I went on eHarmony at the time, and my husband's the first person that I ever met in person. And he came to my house, and I had no job because what happened, I was going to physical therapy every day. I was still missing hair. I had to wear headbands to cover the fact that I was missing hair, but and I didn't think it was going to work out. I'm like, I'm ready to start trying to date and get my life somewhat back to how it was. I told him on our first date, I'm like, just so you know, I'm going to physical therapy. I have no job. I live with my parents at the moment. I'm 30 years old. Like it was just, and he never looked back. Like,
wow,
so,
way to get that shit out of the way. I mean,
right away, because I didn't want, it was such a big part of my life at that point. And I'm like, you have to just know we can have this nice dinner and we can be done. But he never looked back. He gave me roses like the next time, like, I can't believe your story. It's amazing, blah, blah. And he's been great ever since. And we got married and we're still married and we have kids. So he's a great, I'm like, but I joke, I'm like, you're the only man in the world that wouldn't have run after hearing everything that I just went through. And I'm living with my parents at 30 years old. Like I had reasons as to why, but I was going to physical therapy every day. I just wanted to start trying to move forward again. And then I started teaching tennis a little bit after that. I started teaching tennis. So I started getting back into like working again. And yeah, I started trying to get my life. When I first lived with my parents, I was like a little kid. I needed help. Like my mom would help me shower, walking upstairs. I had a neck brace and a body brace at first. So lots of therapy and everything else. But
well, I can only hope for something like you and your husband. The online dating has been not very successful for me.
yeah.
And it was funny because I used to do group runs at a nearby store, running specialty store. That happens to be where I met my ex. It's like, well, that's kind of like radioactive there that I can't go back now. So
Yeah.
sucks. But that was the easiest way that I met other women who were single. So I have to figure that out. But being a triathlete is really weird because most of the women are older, like over 40,
Yeah.
and they're married with kids,
Yeah.
they aren't single.
A
So
lot of a lot of people that do triathlons and run, a lot of them tend to be over 40.
yeah, and it's kind of a sausage fest too.
Oh, is it more with triathlons?
Well, there's a lot of dudes in triathlons. I would say at a race they could outnumber 3 or 4 to 1. So
Okay. Mhm.
so yeah, it's like meeting someone who's single in triathlon is just kind of like a unicorn. I haven't really met anybody like that. It would
Okay.
be nice because of the common interest and everything, but
I would think that would be great.
yeah, but you know, it is what it is. But I'll figure it out at some point. Who knows? It's and if I don't, I'll just get 2 Aussies and 2 ragdolls and live in peace in my condo.
That sounds good.
I do love my pets. You know, the funny
Oh,
thing is my pets are the longest relationship I've had. I've had them for 15 years. Yeah.
wow. Oh,
So, but yeah, I'm glad that honestly they're old, they're 16 and 18. I am so glad that they didn't die during like the worst parts of my TBI. Like me
yeah.
and my ex, her dog died, and I said to I spoke to God. I said, just help me keep my shit together for a few months. And I did. Then I ruined Christmas because it all went downhill. But I had to be the strong one for her, and I never got an opportunity to grieve. And I feel like that had a huge negative impact on me and my regression. That I wasn't able to do that. But
Mm,
yeah, but at least the cats, they're still here, so I'm glad they're not gone.
yeah. Okay. Mm.
Well, hey, when is that marathon you signed up for?
Didn't sign up yet.
Okay.
Um, I'm thinking about doing it. It's in December, like mid-December.
Oh, it's the
Um,
Jacksonville one. I remember reading it now.
yeah. So my
It's
first
the-
Philadelphia one was I did pretty well, right? I got a 354. And so I thought I needed a 340 to qualify for Boston. So I'm always going, I mean, I know I can finish a marathon, but for me, it's not about, I've done a bunch. It's not about finishing. It's about getting the time that I've been trying to get for so long. And I'm like, I just want to be that person that suffered a severe TBI and like qualifies for Boston one day. That's like my dream. And I keep fucking it up. So I took a break because it's really hard to train for so long, and race day just completely bonked those last 6 miles. I can do a decent 18, and then I just bonk every time. So I throw up, and I don't know if it has something to do with the TBI. I don't know. I question that because I've tried different nutrition. I've trained so hard for so many times. I've tried everything, and every single time I get to every time. And now I need a 350, not a 340 anymore. I'm kind of in the running again. So I'm stubborn. So I think I'm going to give it another try because I don't know. I don't like them that much. I just want to it's just something that's been my dream.
Just once, right? That's it.
Just want to make Boston. That's like, but the other thing is, so if I get a 349, which is my PR, I won't go to Boston. I need like a 340, 342, because you need to get a lot lower than
Yeah,
the
at least
qualify.
3 or 4 minutes.
So anyway, I'm gonna probably get a coach and see. I will like bawl my eyes out if I ever, because it's been years. And I mean, a few years ago I was doing it and I was on pace for, I think it was a 335 at one point towards like mile 18. And my husband is, he's on his bike, but next to me just for a brief minute, he gives me like my Gatorade. And he's like, you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it. You're qualifying for Boston. You're gonna do it this time. And then I hit 20, I threw up and I couldn't barely, I don't know. So,
You'll get it
I mean, I
one.
can do it. I have a good half. For me, I'm happy with my half. Like I have a 136, but the full is like a whole nother thing. I don't know. So we'll see.
You'll get it one day. I feel like you will.
When I joke, when I'm 80, I'll get it. But I'm in the running. I think I can, one day I'll do it. So I took a break for a few years, COVID and everything else. But anyway, I didn't sign up. But if I start training, it starts mid-August through December. So yeah.
Well, at least you got nice weather in Florida because it's, what's it like, 70 and 80, so it's sunny like all year long.
So it depends on time of year. This time of year, I finished my run and I'm drenched. Like it's so hot. August is going to be worse. So, and actually,
I live in Atlanta, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
in Atlanta, I don't know where. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I did Jacksonville, gosh, like about 4 years ago. And it happened to be a really hot day. So you never know. In Florida, it could be December and it could get really, well, I shouldn't say like, it's not like summer hot, but it's for me, I need like, I don't know, I get really overheated a lot. So I need like, I need it to be a little cooler. And the second half is when I got really humid and I had a really hard time. So
My marathon weather is like 40 degrees and I'm standing there in shorties and a singlet. That's what I like.
freeze is perfect.
Yeah.
I start with a bunch of clothes, a bunch of like everything, and then I just take everything off as I'm going. And yeah, so I don't know. Hopefully,
Got those two shorties, man. My legs look good. The triathlete, they're shaving. I'm just, they're looking good. But hey, thanks for talking to me. I appreciate it. It helped me out.
oh, good. Okay. Well, good talking to you.
Yeah. Well, I follow you on Instagram, so I see all your stories. Do you take all those pictures I see every day? Do you set it up like
Oh,
a
most once in a blue. If it's a running one, sometimes I'll put it on off live so I can choose like that way. Or sometimes my husband once in a blue. Everyone's like, oh my God, you must have the greatest husband. I'm like, no, that's me. I find a palm tree a lot, or like, what did I do today? Oh, garbage can. And so I put it on a garbage can. And I
nice?
do that. And then my water bottle. So whenever I have my water bottle, I can put it on anything and then put my phone there and put it on 10 seconds. So it gives me 10 seconds to like smile, do whatever. And then, but I take 99, I take most of my pictures. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I've always wondered that, so at least I got a chance to ask you.
yeah. So mainly me.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Oh, okay. Good talking to you, Eric.
Enjoy the rest of your week.
You too. All right. Bye.